Hi Dennis, welcome to GESS Dubai. Do you want to tell me a bit more about Robots.Education?
I started Robots.Education 8 years ago to help children learn robotics and to help educators understand best practices for teaching robotics. I have, in the last 8 years, spoken with more than 20,000 educators, and I've demonstrated robotics to more than 18,000 students.
Amazing. And do you want to tell me a bit more about this guy here?
So this is the guy that I love to use the most when I'm demonstrating robotics, because with this robot, this is JD. He's a humanoid robot from Easy Robot. And with this platform, we've been able to get significantly higher levels of engagement than what schools are achieving with other platforms. When we work with this robot, we're able to get at the high school level between 25 to 45% of all students interested in learning robotics. With other platforms, the average level of engagement is 3%. So imagine, we can go into a school where they've got 20 or 30 students learning robotics, and we can increase that to 250 to 450, and we can typically do that in about a day. And then at the middle school level, we get 90%. And it's just the kids, when they see this robot perform, they just love it. The inspiration level goes through the roof.
And why do you think that is? What makes it different from everything else out there?
I think a lot of times when people are teaching robotics, they're teaching it in a very engineering way. And this robot, he's just cute, right? And we teach all the same engineering, we just don't present it that way to start with. And so, we show the kids the robot doing push-ups or a headstand or singing a song or doing a somersault. And the kids can program all of those things. It's very easy. The first time my daughter saw this robot do a headstand, she gave it a hug and said, "Good job, JD, good job, girl." And the truth is that kind of initially intimidated me, because I was like, uh-oh, my daughter hugged a robot, and that was kind of weird to see that emotional connection. But then after an hour or two, I started to understand that she's got a personal connection with this robot. We can use that to bring all kinds of STEM and engineering education to her. And that really is what we started to focus on, where we teach kids robotics literacy before we go for proficiency. And I think a lot of other companies go proficiency first. We go literacy, then proficiency and mastery. But in starting with literacy, we get magnitudes more children.
Incredible. And you're exhibiting at GESS Dubai for the first time. Do you want to tell me a bit about what visitors can expect from your stand?
When people come to our stand, they are going to be blown away by what the robot can do and how easy it is to program this robot. When we do presentations in schools, we will get, I'll talk for 5 minutes about robotics, and then I say to the kids, if you want, I can keep talking for the next hour. I know a lot about robotics, or I can show you what this robot can do, and they all want to see what the robot can do. So I do a 2-minute demonstration of the robot. The kids start literally jumping up and down. They're so excited. The younger kids. The older kids are, they're a little bit more reserved, but you can tell that there's still a spark in the eye. And then I get them up to volunteer to program the robot. This robot is so easy to program that in 45 minutes, 10-year-olds who have never programmed robots before can program it to wave, to talk while waving. They'll record their voice and have it come out the robot, which is very engaging. They'll give the robot, I told you this robot's name was JD, but they'll give the robot their own name to personalize it. Then they'll program in a speech recognition phrase, talk to the robot, and the robot will respond. They'll have it tracking a color, so the robot is moving its head around, following the color, and they'll program the robot to recognize a student and greet that student by name. They do that all in 45 minutes. And we were here presenting to a school the other day, and we had a bunch of grade 6 students, and they were very much not interested in robotics at the start of the presentation. And at the end, my associate asked, who would like to learn robotics, and it was everybody. And one of the girls said, I used to be afraid of robotics, and now I'm not anymore. And if we can bring that to the children, that's so empowering and so beneficial for their future.
That's incredible. And I think you're also doing 3 talks with us, one in the Guest Talks Arena tomorrow, and then there's another 2. Do you want to tell me a bit about what those talks are and what you're speaking about? Sure.
The first session, which is at 2:30 on Sunday, is about building a high-tech culture in your school. And what we need to do, because the changes that robotics and AI will bring are so industry-wide globally, they will impact, like robotics and AI will impact all industries, and therefore all of our kids need this education. One of the challenges that educators face is trying to get their students engaged, but a second challenge is trying to get their staff engaged, because it's not just the students that are typically intimidated by robotics, it's also the staff, and it's the parents. So the first session, Building a High-Tech Culture in Your School, we're going to talk about how to get the parents, the teachers, and the students all excited about learning this technology. And when we do that, we see dramatic change in a school. And that we've had schools come back and they'll say, in a day you've completely changed the culture of our school. Everybody is buzzing about robotics and programming. And if we think about what happens when we do that in multiple schools in a city or all the schools in a country, and then we think about what the impact of that is, it's huge. The second session, which is at 2:50 on Monday, it's called Robotics and AI, 20 Minutes That Change Everything. And in this session, I'm going to detail how these technologies will transform every industry. And the information is truly paradigm changing. The people that see this session and understand this will often, leave the session and immediately pivot what they're doing in education. Because when you understand how completely these technologies will change things, you recognize all of our kids need this. And so that's the second session. That one is unbelievable. The third session, I'm on a panel about the future of education, and that's also on Monday afternoon.
That sounds amazing. And what would you hope would be the one thing that the audience takes away from your talks?
Get all of your kids robotics literacy and stronger technical education as quickly as possible. We don't have a huge amount of time. And I know a lot of times when I say this to people initially, I'm like, all of our kids need this, and they're like, and I'll throw out some stats that are pretty intimidating, and everybody will be, oh, that's overstated. And then in the session, I break it down in terms of what's going to happen in transportation, agriculture, manufacturing, retail, hospitality, and it paints a very clear picture that all of our kids need this education right now. So the number one thing I hope is at the end of this, everybody goes back to their schools and they start going, okay, how do we pivot to get kids more future-proof?